the tricky brain. So the tricky brain refers to what we would classify as a conflict between the mammalian brain and the human prefrontal cortex, which looks a lot like it's just been glued on top. And we could say that we evolved that way, or we could say aliens glued it on top of monkey brains. I don't know if you're into that kind of thing. Anunnaki and stuff. Anyway, so the reason they call it the tricky brain is systems in the brain don't cooperate with each other. And one of the sensations that people experience on acid or DMT or mushrooms is this interconnectedness and this feeling that everything's connected, and they mean connected to the universe or connected to the sacredness of the land or whatever, but it's actually the parts of the brain that don't usually communicate are communicating. There's kind of this like free-for-all in connections and synapses and stuff. But roughly speaking, the tricky brain just means that things don't connect well, alright? So let's say we've got the animal, alright? This part of our brain is only really good for anger and fear. That's really what it's good for. And also disgust. Let me try to draw a vomit. That's vomit, alright? Okay. So disgust is like poison, yeah? When we taste something that's going to kill us, we're okay, get rid of that. So these are really animal emotions, right? It's like run away from danger, fuck you, how dare you like try to sleep where I usually sleep, territorial stuff. Or poison, right? So the animal is just like really in the moment survival stuff, right? The human brain, and let's talk about meritocracy and capitalism. There's this kind of like progress thing, right? This like success, getting somewhere, building, you know, it's this, it's drive and success, yeah? It's moving forward. Like there's this part of us that wants to be self-actualized and move towards a degree, or, you know, even mating, it's like, it's very different here. It's like, it's just kind of like, sex? No? Okay, fine. Sex? No? Okay, fine. Or there's, you know, there's a lot of rape in the animal world. Let's not get into that. But it's, you know, that's very in the moment. And this is very like later in the future, if I persevere, I'll eventually get what I need, right? Or what I'm after. Now these like in the moment and like in the future, they don't communicate well, right? And so one of the things that people really get stuck on is like, when you're in a mood, trying to think your way out of it. Now, what that actually does is it just holds the mood, right? So one of the things that I've noticed with like holding space is, you know, women kind of expect their man to be able to hold space for their anxiety or whatever. It's like talking about the anxiety, and men get this experience of like, well, when I just listen to you talk about anxiety, I get anxious, and then we're both just like stuck in the mood of being anxious, right? And while that is quite therapeutic to get it off your chest and like externalize it and that, one thing I've learned is this like putting a time limit on it. So it's like, we're just going to talk about this for 5 minutes and then we can both snap out of it. So it's like, when you got 5 minutes to get it out, and I've learned that from like Codependence Anonymous and anger management and stuff, when you've only got a short window to get to your point, you will make it. You'll make it in that time. The buzzer goes and then you just quickly round it off with like one sentence or whatever. Like, we're able to sort of plan time, you know, in the way that we speak. So if you got half an hour to talk about something, your brain goes, yeah, okay, well, I'll meander towards 5 different things. But if you got 3 minutes, you'll just like go, okay, 1, 2, 3, I need to get each thing in each minute, and you'll kind of make it work, right? So if I can just talk about animal progressive arousal, right? So by arousal, I just mean feeling anything. So when a rat feels fear, it goes, It's extinction, right? The extinction is like, it goes away quickly. Why? Because they run away. They feel fear, they run away, it goes, oh shit, and then the fear just goes away. The adrenaline and the cortisol and stuff just, right? For humans, it might go a bit longer because we overthink, yeah? So we sit around staring at the floor, wondering why we're depressed, and don't change our state or don't change anything, and then wonder why we're still depressed, right? And depression takes longer to metabolize than anxiety, right? And if you're into the Chinese stuff, which I am into, the large intestine is like a slow, heavy, you know, moving, transporting of stuff, right? And anxiety can be in the lung, which is just like, so in the kidney, right? The chest, right? It's like, And so that's, it's less like of a slow function, right? It can also be in the bladder. So being paralyzed with fear, it can also be in the bladder. But that, you just kind of piss it out. Kidneys and stuff is like, piss it out. It's very different to slowly shitting something out. So one of the things with maintaining it and keeping it there is like talking about it too much can keep you in the mood. Thinking about it too much can keep you in the mood. And whilst I said before there's a bit of relief in talking about it, do you really want to stay in the mood, or do you want to just like let it go, right? The good thing to do is like talk about it a little bit and then change your state. So get out of the house, go for a walk. There's a definite school of thought where people go, oh, you just got to get up and leave. And it's like, when you call a friend over when you're depressed, like you should talk about it for a bit, but then it's like, the good ones always end in, let's get up, let's just go do something. Like even if you go get fucking ice cream and cry into the tub, like it's better than just staying in your bedroom, right? And that's the thing with depression and anxiety, which are often hand in hand in social anxiety, is we feel compelled to try work it out logically using our human brain, but it just keeps it there, yeah? We just kind of maintain the feeling, right, by focusing on it. So even though that's completely like rational and it makes sense, like hearing it, you really got to practice not doing it. You got to practice going like, no, fuck this, I'm going to put my shoes on, I'm going to go for a run, I'm going to snap out of it. Because that's got to become a habit and an unconscious ritual, because your unconscious ritual might be like, I'm going to stay here and think about it and not do anything, and then beat myself up about not achieving anything and letting my anxiety win, which gives you more depression, right? So it's like, fuck, I let the anxiety win, depression, and then you're kind of like at the mercy of the trauma, right? Because all those things are trauma, PTSD related, is we're anxious because we're afraid of something that happened before that might happen again, or we're depressed about, you know, that life beat us to our fucking knees, and a beaten dog never forgets. But in terms of anxiety as an introvert, right, which I'm sure a lot of socially anxious people are, there is a real fear that you'll run out of steam if you leave and socialize, and like counting on someone else to drive you home from a party is like, I'm just not going to go, fuck it. So my advice from an introvert, and I know it doesn't look like I'm an introvert because I'm very outgoing and I do a lot of like creative shit and stuff, but I also run home after everything. Like I'll go to a comedy show or a jazz thing, and like half the time I'll leave at intermission. I'm like, nah, that's enough. Like that's enough socializing. That's enough stimulus for one day. And I'll go home and then I'll like regret that I went home early. But it's like the getting overwhelmed and the being unable to get home and the ordeal of like too much stimulus. Like I'm very protective of that. And if you're an introvert, I recommend doing that. Like have a plan B. Don't drink so you can drive, so you can fuck off when you can. My brother doesn't even say goodbye when he's had enough at a party. Like there's something where someone who hadn't met him was like, oh, he didn't even say goodbye, and his friends were like, Chris doesn't say goodbye, he just cracks it and leaves. Like that's his jam, right? And it's like, you got to be comfortable doing that, because you're right, the extroverts will latch on to you and try to stop you going home. They're like, no, I just have one more drink, and you're like, no, I've had enough of fucking feeling too many things at once, right? So yeah, if you struggle to get out the door, it's about having like healthy boundaries to create a safe space for yourself. Otherwise you're just going to stay at home and fucking overthink, yeah? Which we've all done it. And, you know, I failed year 12 because my anxiety got the best of me. And eventually, like, I just got over it. I snapped out of it. And I was like, yeah, when I participate and when I do things, and when I do things that make me proud, like, the depression and the anxiety don't happen, right? So there's another system that they taught us about in anger management, and it is the soothing cooling system, all right? And, you know, mindfulness is huge right now. Like, and there's all these studies to show that meditation and mindfulness like reduce anxiety and are just good for any number of things, right? But besides remembering to use it, besides remembering to go to the soothe thing when you are a bit triggered, when you're afraid or angry, which is actually kind of the same thing. It's the same sort of physiological response, and like anger is often a defense mechanism for fear, or, you know, men don't want to look sad and weak. Like weakness is really like something we're afraid of, right? So it's like, actually, I'm not in any danger, you know, and taking that moment to go, fuck it, like, this is fine. Like, what's this guy going to do? Even if he does punch me in the face, like, it's like, this guy's not going to steal my girlfriend, you know. It's just like being able to talk yourself down when you are in a heightened state. And like, obviously we try to avoid triggers that bother us, but being able to bring yourself back down is important as well, right? And so there's a two-pronged approach to this. There's the mindfulness, like developing that space of like, okay, what's actually going on? I'm feeling tight in my chest. That's probably fear, you know, having that internal space, but also cultivating that internal space to be a safe place, and then remembering to tap into it, like going like, what will give me progress right now is to go into a calm yin soothing feeling. And you guys might remember I was pushing like yin practice heaps, like probably 2 years ago. Yin for winners, yin while you're winning. It was like qigong, meditation, yoga. I was just all about that shit, and it was because I really found there was a ability to counteract the animal with soothing after like really indulging in aggressiveness and yang stuff. I was like, this yin stuff's really, this is important. And I felt like the holistic thing to moving forward and getting somewhere in life was to have like a integrated feminine yin side and like a shameless masculine side. Well, not shameless, because I mean shame makes you human as well, and like as I've embraced shame as part of the codependency stuff, I've found like I'm more relatable and people find me like less arrogant and stuff, which is cool. I never thought that was possible. Integrating. So yeah, another thing that really triggers the animal, just one more thing, is when you are like succeeding and then something derails you, like something gets in your way, like that sudden thwarting gives us like fear and anger and frustration. So that's a real thing. So if you have in place, this is like a nice practical application, is like when you get derailed, when you're like succeeding and getting in your drives happening and then something knocks you off, you're like, okay, this is just an obstacle. I'm going to overcome it like everything I've ever overcome before. It's just another little fucking fork in the road and I'm going to get to where I'm going anyway. Which is also a good reframe for anxiety. It's like, I'm just going to deal with this like I've dealt with everything. So yeah, keep that in mind. Anyway, we've got fight, flight, drive and progress, and we've got this yin soothing system, the cooling system. All right, PM me with questions and introvert pride. I love you guys. Put your shoes on. Go out. Get out of the house. You already know what the inside of your own head feels like. Bye.